man. This man how you remind you of these? Sound crazy already.
It's gonna be a Mexican sweet potato hash, requested by the champ himself.
And Jay, what you gonna come down with a Versace roll on?
True excellence doesn't make an entrance with noise. It shows up ready. And Shakur Stevenson has stepped into this chapter the way someone does when they've been preparing for it in silence, patiently closing in on it for years.
Out playing baseball, baseball bat in his hand, he exhibited a very keen hand-eye coordination, at a very early age, He and I, every day, were watching boxing. So one day, he finally sat up and just started punching. I'm like, whoa, hey. While he was walking, at the time, barely, we started punching and throwing the bat, doing everything.
Yes, yeah, that one right to that shoulder.
Come on, guys! You got one!
Don't stay there. Don't stay there. Don't stay there.
And not
The first one was.
Sam got what? Keyshawn, how do you call me that little shot in the first round?
Huh?
Little bullshit shot.
Was I catching it?
You got it back.
Hey, it's straight.
I seen you around a couple times.
Shit,
I was at
He doesn't move with urgency for show, and nothing he does is unnecessary. Every action is intentional, building toward a clear goal. And with Andre Ward now guiding him, that focus is only intensified as they fine-tune everything ahead of the Teofimo matchup.
Yeah. The way your heart rate is recovering right now, you getting close, yeah.
Yeah, cause I'm like, he getting tired, and then he'll do some fight. Boom, boom. Like, okay.
I gotta rest up, take some wind.
Yeah. I saw him catching some of that too.
It's what you really gotta watch out for. I like the little smooth, but the lead hand is like sneaky.
I love.
It's down here, so you'll get caught like looking at it and waiting for it to come, and then something.
I like how he stay long and keep that angle.
Yeah, he keep the angle.
Keep his head off the
Position,
fucking
man.
line.
Just in case, especially with somebody fast like him with timing. You can't be out of position. You got
He strong as hell. He can pick me up in there. It was fun though, just to be in the ring with him, share the ring with him, test his IQ out a little bit, see some of the moves he doing, and I'm gonna go take with me when I go fight. So I appreciate Dre.
Choice alone speaks volumes. Ward isn't there to hold hands or nurture raw promise. He's there to refine elite fighters. And what he's instilling in Shakur is control, knowing when to wait, where to stand, and how to stay composed when the pressure peaks and the spotlight burns brightest.
Many are called, few are chosen. He was the chosen one. How he stood apart was his talent, his gifts. He was able to do things that the average fighter wasn't able to do. It's something about elite fighters. Their talent stand out apart from, the competition, like way before it come to fruition. And I'm one that where I'm looking and searching and seeking for that special talent.
That's close! Oh my God! I'm down!
Boxing means everything to me.
Hey! That's too easy!
Boxing is like my life. It's like something I'm married to. Like I feel like I'm married to boxing. Like I put my all into the sport. I do whatever I can to be the best, and I'm gonna keep doing whatever I can to get better and better. And I just want to be the best.
You caught glimpses of it in the Zepeda fight. Shakur didn't merely withstand the pressure. He broke it down piece by piece, remaining steady while disorder slid right past him. When you place that beside Teofimo's standout performances, the difference becomes clear. Teofimo explodes in moments of brilliance. Shakur, on the other hand, wears opponents down methodically, pulling everything out of them until there's nothing left to give. That level of command didn't begin inside a state-of-the-art training facility. It started much earlier. His grandfather, Wally Moses, once explained it simply. Shakur's first sport was baseball, where his hand-eye coordination stood out almost immediately. But being around boxing consistently planted the seed. Even at a very young age, throwing punches came naturally to him, leading to early mitt work and fast, noticeable progress.
As time went on, I started working with the mitts with him, at an early age, and, he really got good at it. So by the time he turned 5 years old, I took him to the gym. So one day I took, like old karate pitching, I took the boxing gloves, sat him here, took the baseball bat, sat it here, and I said, yo, whichever one you choose is gonna be your destiny. So he made a quick rear to the boxing glove, picked up the boxing glove, put him on his hand, said that's it. And everything else was history.
At 5 years old, he was presented with a simple decision: stick with baseball or step into boxing. He chose the gloves without hesitation, and that moment set everything in motion. The impact of that choice is still visible today, because Shakur isn't chasing highlights or attention. He's putting in the work relentlessly, operating with precision, designed to break Teofimo down layer by layer, until self-belief collides with strategy, and only one approach remains standing.
So far, camp has been going great, looking at the anticipation of the things that's coming forward. We're not looking past anybody, but, he's been working very hard, and he's been in the gym a very good amount of time, and, I think he's taking this fight just as seriously as he would take any other fight, if not more. So I know for sure that I could say he's going to be ready.
Standing opposite that steady, methodical force is Teofimo Lopez. His confidence is turned all the way up, relaxed, energized, grinning like someone who thinks the outcome is already written. This is Teofimo at his most expressive, when his self-belief overflows into jokes and jabs, even mocking Shakur as a roadrunner. Yet beneath the humor and taunts, there's a more dangerous edge quietly taking shape.
I'm fighting a roadrunner from the Coyote. You chose me. I ain't choose you. You chose me. So I'm gonna tell you straight the F up. You can go back to 135. We'll send you back to lightweight. You still got your WBC belt. You're gonna be fine. Shakur will fall. Yes. We are here at the Undisputed Performance Center, just in preparation for January 31st against Shakur Stevenson.
He was born for this. He's God gifted. We're implementing a lot of different things for this camp. You got to do things in there that people have never seen.
Every day is a different type of segment of working out. Earlier today, I had a little bit of strength and conditioning, and then swimming, exercising and expanding those lungs. And then we finish off late night. We come here and do 18 ounces of gloves, an hour or as long as I can of training without no break.
Teofimo doesn't carry himself this way when he's unsure. This kind of humor shows up when he's fully dialed in. It comes through in how he describes the matchup, part playful, part warning, almost challenging Shakur to move just so he can make his case. This is the version of Teofimo that lives for the spotlight, the fighter who feeds off tension and converts doubt into drive.
He's the best whenever he's in good condition. Like they say, we eat, we sleep, everything boxing.
My nutritionist is anonymous. They're giving me a lot more protein than the previous camps. I'm actually having more meals in between rather than before.
He operates at the intersection of control and disorder in a rhythm only he understands. And at his side, as ever, is Teofimo Sr., overseeing the training, setting the tone, and reinforcing the mindset, constantly grounding his son in who he's always been, long before uncertainty ever crept in.
I've been with him ever since he started boxing, which was at 6. I really knew that he was really good when he started beating professional fighters at 13, 14 years old.
Between me and Shakur, when we were under top rank, because we were the next rising stars, we sparred. We did only 3 rounds back in Miami in 2016. I was getting the best out of him. You should have seen afterwards. Why do you think he said stop? He said stop recording. Come on, dog.
That bond between father and son remains the driving force. It's still the core of how Teofimo is preparing for Stevenson, pushing him to rely on his natural feel, tighten his rhythm, and fully embrace the burst-heavy style that's fueled his biggest victories. This is Teofimo at his most dangerous, disciplined enough to grind, relaxed enough to enjoy it, and defiant enough to believe, once again, that everyone else has it wrong.
I think I'm gonna learn the most with this fight coming up. I don't even look at my fights after I fight. I just go clock in, do my work. Shakur and that community are all personal, buddy, where I'm like by myself a lot of times, but that's part of the success because they're all Michael Vicks and I'm a dog.
And past experience tells you something important. When Teofimo carries himself this way, smiling, speaking, and preparing like this, doubt is no longer part of the equation. What you're facing instead is a fighter who plans to own the spotlight, forcing the other man to react and chase from the opening bell.
I'm coming to conquer.
You're not conquering us.
I get bullied constantly in the boxing world. Everyone's favoring Shakur Stevenson. Although he's coming up to my weight class, I am the king of this division.
And I have Shakur Jigama. You know?
You said you're gonna do what?
Jigga my balls.
What? Wow,
You hard,
bro. Pause.
You hard.
So that's why we got to keep beating these guys. Beating Shakur, this is part of it to get to that next level. I pretty much have had almost everything thrown at me, and I look forward to see what will be thrown at me come January 31st.
Right after Teofimo finished framing himself as the disruptor, the one eager to pull this fight into rough, unfamiliar territory, Oscar Valdez entered the conversation from a very different place. He didn't speak like someone guessing from the outside. He sounded like someone who's already been lost in that puzzle and learned where the traps are. Valdez didn't bring excitement or slogans, he brought experience. When he explained that facing Shakur requires resisting the urge to overreach, it landed hard, because that exact mistake is how Shakur reduces world-class opponents to swinging at air. Valdez kept emphasizing restraint, warning against letting Shakur dictate the tempo. That's the detail many overlook. Shakur doesn't shove you into his style. He quietly closes off every alternative until the only fight left is the one he wants you to fight.
You're gonna set the tone with someone with Shakur, you better have a game plan, because the guy he's gonna be patient. He's not gonna get off his game plan to fall into your trap. So if I'm Teofimo Lopez's coach, I would tell him not to lose focus, not to get frustrated inside the ring. Stick to your game plan, whatever game plan it is. Press A, B, C, whatever it is, stick to it and go for it.
When Valdez describes how Shakur leans away, lands a shot, repeats it, then patiently waits for you to commit so he can punish you even cleaner, that isn't analysis, it's lived experience. It hits differently because it comes from someone who felt it firsthand. What made it even more real was Oscar owning his own misstep. He explained how impatience took over, shaped by that old-school Morales-era mentality. Lead with courage, press the action immediately. Meanwhile, Shakur is operating on an entirely different level, calmly calculating, smiling, baiting responses like it's second nature. Valdez didn't sugarcoat it. He said Shakur isn't in there to put on a show. He's there to secure the win. And that explains why this matchup makes people uneasy. Teofimo thrives on explosive moments. Shakur dominates by controlling the passage of time itself.
But someone like Shakur Stevenson, like I said, it's easier said than done with a fighter like that, because it's not like he's too back from you. He's just right there in your face, and once you throw, he just rocks back a little bit and touches you. Then it becomes very frustrating. Then when you start loading up, then he does it again. He starts loading up at his shots, but just unboxing you. So I would just say, it's like I said, it's a tough one for me to pick who will come out victorious. That's why I go with the 50-50 fight.
But this is where Valdez really turned up the heat. He didn't dismiss Teofimo's chances whatsoever. Instead, he explained that forward pressure can be effective, just not the reckless, head-first kind. Not wild aggression. What he described was measured pressure, the kind that slowly tightens, waits for a single clean opportunity, and makes it count. And when Valdez labeled the fight a true coin flip, it wasn't hesitation, it was acknowledgement. He was pointing to Teofimo's upside. Oscar reminded everyone that Teofimo tends to elevate when the challenge does, even if his path there looks uneven at times. In Valdez's view, Shakur is the problem everyone has to solve. But Teofimo might be the rare fighter with the physical strength and explosiveness to overturn the board instead of cracking the code. That's why this matchup feels less like guessing an outcome and more like weighing the danger on both sides.
I know you tried to do it, and Shakur's undefeated at this point, but How do you beat a Shakur Stevenson?
You know, I think how you beat a Shakur Stevenson, if I can go back and you do something, try. I say this, try, because like I said, you just said it done, but try to put the pressure like Camarón Cepeda did. And just wait for your shot to land good and make that damage where he has no that.
Then, right after Valdez reframed this matchup as a mental marathon rather than a simple exchange of punches, Augie Sanchez entered the conversation with a credential almost no one else can claim. I've shared the ring with both of them. That alone shifted the energy. Augie wasn't speculating like a spectator. He was speaking from memory, like a coach recalling specific moments. What stood out most was his observation about Shakur's power. He explained that Shakur himself didn't realize he could truly hurt people until he scored a knockdown and seemed surprised by what his own hands had done. That detail says a lot about the kind of danger he presents. Augie also highlighted how selective Shakur is with his shots. Nothing wasted, nothing thrown for show. And that's the kind of opponent who breaks you quietly. Not with noise, but with precision. Like watching your battery drain faster than you expected, but he was also clear about one thing. Shakur isn't a Floyd clone. Not even close. He's more planted, more comfortable holding his ground, firing clean shots from right in front of you. He slips just enough to make you miss, then answers immediately, clean, sharp, and undeniable, like proof handed back to you after the fact.
I think Teo's his angles. I think his angles are gonna be a factor because he likes to use those angles. He's not one dimensional. He likes to use those angles, and I think that's gonna kind of be a factor in the fight of for Shakur, because Shakur's kind of stay in one spot, and so Teofimo can be utilizing those angles to use so to his advantage, and so I think Teofimo, I think that's gonna be a big factor for him. Is his angles and his speed and his power. He can crack too.
Then Augie shifted perspective again, reminding everyone that his experience didn't stop with Shakur. He trained alongside Teofimo too. Same Olympic setup, same Colorado Springs routines, same long sparring sessions where it was obvious what Teofimo brought to the table. The speed, the strength, the angles. That raw explosiveness you simply can't manufacture. What Augie emphasized most wasn't just power, though it was movement. Those angles, he explained, are where this fight could swing either way. His point was clear. Teofimo isn't a straight-line fighter. And if he can use that footwork and positioning to interrupt Shakur's rhythm, that's when the matchup becomes unpredictable. But Augie didn't stay hypothetical for long. He grounded it quickly, pointing out that Shakur's sense of timing and counterpunching is world-class. Give him space or seconds to read you, and he'll eventually track you down. What really hit was hearing Augie talk about how close they all once were, hanging out, trading rounds, sharpening each other daily. And now those same fighters are staring at legacy bouts and serious money. It makes this feel less like a rivalry and more like something left unresolved. Augie never chose a favorite, and that silence spoke louder than any prediction. When someone who knows both sides says, "May the better fighter win," what he's really saying is this: the margins are razor thin, and a single error will decide everything.
For Teofimo, so he can put his counter to work and see his openings, and maybe capitalize off of. I don't know if he'll knock him out or stop. I don't know if he has the power to actually stop to stop Teofimo. But I think he has the power to get the respect of him. But it's gonna be a good fight. It's gonna be a technical fight.
Do you give the edge to either guy just by the slightest, or having known them, you're not trying to pick a
I'm not trying
let the best man win.
Just let the best man win.
Dr. Augie Sanchez offered that rare viewpoint from someone who shared rounds with both men. Regis Prograis stepped in and shifted the entire conversation. He came in like the voice that cuts through the noise and points straight at the real issue. Regis didn't hesitate. He said he sees Shakur winning this without much trouble, not because Teofimo lacks ability, but because, in his view, the battle starts in Teofimo's mind long before it ever shows up in his movement. When Regis described Teofimo as physically elite but mentally unstable, it didn't come off as criticism. It sounded like recognition. A fellow fighter calling out a pattern. And it's one we've all noticed. He highlighted how Teofimo elevates himself against names like Lomachenko and Josh Taylor, yet in other bouts appears distracted, almost internally conflicted. That internal tension is exactly where Shakur operates best, in the silence where uncertainty creeps in. What made Regis's take it harder was that he didn't erase Teofimo's highs. He gave credit where it was due, even mentioning the Barboza performance. But then he pulled the lens back to the larger issue. When uneven performances collide with a fighter who thrives on strategy and mental pressure, that's when things become truly dangerous.
Of Teofimo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson, that definitely makes sense. Who do you think is going to win that fight?
I got Shakur for sure. Shakur.
Do you think he wins this comfortably, or do you think it'll be a close fight?
I think he wins it comfortably, yeah. I think he wins it comfortably. I think, Shakur, I think the thing is about Teo is very good athletically, but he's weak-minded. You can see in some fights he's struggling. Teo does struggle. Now he does come up for big fights. Lomachenko, he came up. Josh Taylor, he came up. But a lot of fights, man, he struggles. And, he does struggle on a whole lot of fights and stuff. Like, I think he looked good. Yeah, he looked good against Barboza. But like I said, for the most part, Teo does.
Here's a completely reworked, original rewrite that keeps the meaning, pacing, and psychological weight intact while sounding entirely new and copyright safe. When Regis mentioned that the opening couple of rounds could be competitive, it rang true. Early on, Teofimo is often at his best, loose, confident, moving well, fully convinced in what he's doing. But then Regis described what happens next, the gradual tightening. Shakur begins to assert himself. Teofimo lets his hands go, the shots don't land. And little by little the irritation shows up in his movement, his stance, his ability to stay patient. When Regis pointed out how Shakur's counters quietly slipped through, it connected. Because those shots aren't flashy. They're reminders. The kind that don't stun you physically, but force you to second-guess your timing every time you engage. What made the take even more unsettling was Regis avoiding a knockout prediction. That's worse. A clear decision loss over 12 rounds means spending the entire night realizing none of your answers are solving the problem. It echoes exactly what Augie said about accuracy and timing, that at its core, Regis was describing a fight that turns into a psychological review once Shakur finds his rhythm. And when a former world champion talks about someone being broken, he's not talking about punishment. He's talking about confidence. That's the real threat in this matchup.
And I think he struggles mentally with a lot of things. But I think with Shakur, I think Shakur's going to break him. I think maybe the first two or three rounds, it might be a close fight. It might be close. It might be 2-1 or something like that. But then after that, I feel like Shakur is probably going to start stepping up, and Teo's going to try to hit him, and it's not going to work. And then Shakur might start. The thing about Shakur is a very good, a real good counterpuncher.
When you lay all of this side by side, the conversation shifts. It's no longer about who speaks louder. It becomes about who can withstand their own tendencies. Shakur is operating like someone engineered for drawn-out battles, led by wisdom, honed by routine, and confident that composure always arrives when it's needed. Teofimo, meanwhile, moves as if disorder itself is an advantage, believing that belief can bend outcomes, that a single explosive moment can rewrite the narrative and prove limits are meant to be broken. This is structure against volatility. Restraint against confrontation.
By Shakur is a very good, a real good counterpuncher, really sharp, real sharp with the counterpunch. He sneaks those punches in, and that's the ones that hurt the most, when he just sneaking them in when you're not supposed to hit him. So I definitely feel like, I feel like Shakur is gonna beat him comfortably. Not knockout, but comfortable 12 rounds for sure.